about 70.
Yeah, but like the time register. Is Mark that coming? He's on the screen. Oh, you're on Zoom. Good morning.
Good
Afternoon.
morning or afternoon. Yeah, hi.
Okay, I'm gonna call the superintendent search planning meeting to order at 1:03. We'll start with introductions. I'll go first. I'm Valerie Ingram, the board chair.
Christy Hockey, vice chair. I'm Kate Brindis.
Brad McCarroll, board.
Secretary.
David Warner, director of communications.
Oh, we forgot Mark. You got it.
I'm Mark Everett, board member.
Steve Webb with Human Capital Enterprises, executive search associate. Probably seen a little bit about my background as part of the proposal, but I spent 36 years in public education, 15 as a superintendent of schools in 2 school districts, one in Southern California, school district of about 15,000. And most recently served as superintendent of Vancouver Public Schools on the north bank of the Columbia River. 38 schools, 24,000 students, 3,000 plus employees, $300 million operating budget, pretty large, complex system. Retired in 2021. I'm semi-retired and have worked with Robin and Hank for really the past 2.5 years doing superintendent searches across Washington and Oregon predominantly.
And Robin Bean, I got to introduce myself to all of you at the last meeting that Hank and I were together at, and most of you in the room I knew before then, so it's really a pleasure. To say I'm delighted to have been, for our team to have been selected is really like an understatement. You can't even imagine how thrilled I was to get a phone call from Hank. So really, really excited to be working in a place that means a lot to me personally, and that, you know, I know the hearts of the people of Forest Grove and how important schools are in this community. So I'm really excited to be a part of this process. So shall I jump into our agenda? Should we do it that way? Okay.
Go for it.
So we're gonna start with communication norms. Steve and I have kind of toggled back and forth on topics here. With regard to communications, what we want to say now is, as of this minute or as of the moment you made the selection, we are your search group, and we want to manage all the communication around the search. And the reason we bring that up, what that looks like is, if you have folks coming to you and lobbying about a candidate they hope applies, we really want you to say, that sounds very interesting. Here's Robin's email address, here's Steve's email address, and funnel everybody to us so that you're not caught in a weird spot having had a conversation about anybody until you're supposed to have conversations about folks. You may also have interested candidates reach out to you. And again, that's when you say, I'm really excited to know you're interested. Here's the contact information. And I want to also just say, from an email protocol standpoint, here's how we'll communicate. If we have information to share, I'll put Chair Ingram in the 2, you know, I'll do an email. You'll be in the 2 column, and I always CC Kathy. And then everybody else will be in BCC. So as not to create any kind of a public meeting, nobody can reply all and, you know, get that messy kind of a thing going. So I will always start it though with, and Steve will as well, hello board. So, you know, it's going to all of you. It's addressing all of you, but you'll only see Valerie's name in the 2 line. If one of you sends an email to one of us and asks a question, you wonder about something, we will field that question. We'll reply to you and we'll reply to the full board again in BCC so that everybody knows the answer we gave to any question you may have asked. So it's not an individual communication. I certainly will likely have a phone call or 2 with you along the way, Valerie, that's separate from the rest of the board. Just, hey, how do you want to handle this? And you may be pulling the board on some things, but for the most part, we'll deal with all the board always at the same time. Okay. Any questions about that? All right. The other thing with regard to communication, we're gonna talk, we talked in the pitch meeting, and we're gonna talk a little bit later about what we'll need in terms of some staff support, which is very minimal. But as it relates to communication to you all, that maybe is, we need to know which date's gonna work best. I'm assuming it's through Kathy. We just wanted to name that here for sure, that sometimes it's not. Occasionally it's somebody other than the executive assistant to the board and the superintendent, but just clarifying, if we had materials to distribute, something to be done that we don't do, we'll work with Kathy. All right. Item 3 is the first addendum in your packet. It is superintendent search timeline. Now, before anybody gets too nervous, we're going to spend the bulk of today's meeting on this timeline. So we'll get done with item number 3, and 45 minutes from now, you'll say, oh my gosh, if 3 took 45 minutes, are we going to be here till nightfall? We are not. This takes the most time because we're going to be calendaring, we're going to be seeing who's available when. But let me ask you to do this. On the first pass, let's ignore the dates. And I see you're getting out your calendar there, Brad. We're gonna ignore the dates on the first pass and use the timeline as a catalyst to discuss what does every part of the search look like. And then it will be faster to circle back and say, okay, now that we understand, we've walked through the whole search, we understand how we're gonna handle all the parts of it, or most of the parts of it. Then we'll circle back and we'll say, do these dates work? Now, this is a draft. We put these dates down because they work for us. We know there might be some moving targets in here, and that's okay. So here we are. It's December 14th, and we're having our planning meeting. So you can check number 1 off at the top of that page. So there you go.
It's nice to check that one, right?
Right.
For sure.
I should have put a little box next to it so we could all put our checks in the same spot. So in the first set of activities is pre-announcement activities. We, and these things are in the contract, we'll hold 15 stakeholder focus group meetings. We're trying to accomplish those between the 8th and the 22nd of January. Those focus groups we keep at 5 to 7 people. We love 5, we can handle 7. But those are small groups because they are 40 minutes in length, and we want to hear from everybody in the room. You know, there was a day and a time when we have a library full of 80 constituents and not get really any meaningful feedback. So we'll hold those stakeholder meetings. We'll talk in a few minutes when we on the agenda about the second addendum. Actually, not a few minutes. When we're done with all of this, we'll come back to what those focus meetings might look like. But that's what's happening. Much of the month of January is just the seeking information from your constituents across community, internal staff, at every level of the organization. So that's that. We will meet with each of the board of directors. It says one-on-one. It'll actually, we hope it, we try very hard to both be in those meetings, and Hector, who'll be joining us, is going to join as many as he can. He is a working superintendent, so it'll depend on the time, but we'll invite him to all those. We want to hear deeply from, very specifically from every member of the board about what you're thinking about our next steps in the search. So we'll schedule those, also trying to be done no later than January 22nd, but actually try to get to the board early in the process, even available a little bit before the winter break if you all are. And yeah, so we'll talk about scheduling those. We'll get the survey out, and that is for all internal staff. We'll get a survey. It asks the same 3 questions we ask in our focus groups. So they're narratives. It's, full paragraph response. We read every single one. So the survey will go out right after the first of the year, probably not the very first week back, since we have a little time. People are ignoring stuff in their inbox in those first few days. So since we have a little time, probably going to wait till the second week back. It'll go out in English and Spanish. And when so I've got us closing that January 26th. That some of these dates don't matter very much to you because you don't have to be there, but I'm just showing you what our targets are here. The contract, we're really excited to have Hector coming out to engage in a full day Spanish language focus series of groups, not just one, but a day's worth of, back to back different kinds of constituents, staff, students, really excited. Students give great input. So staff, students, community members, and we'll work again when we get to that focus group page on figuring out who's going to help us really outline a day that's the most meaningful, that's the most productive, where we'll get the greatest amount of input. I have there that the outreach for that is the 20th or the 27th. I spoke with Hector last night, and again, he'll be in later. Really works a lot better for him. The 27th, we can make that work in terms of still being able to turn around and get you all of their input woven into the next superintendent criteria document, even if it's the 27th, unless somehow any
So
of
you're
you.
thinking January 27th?
Yes.
So just so you know, that week ahead of that is finals at the high school because it's the end of the semester. So there's no school Friday the 26th, K-12.
Okay.
And there's no school Monday, the 29th for 7-12.
Beginning of the semester.
It's the end of the beginning of the
Okay.
semester. So
Okay.
I don't know.
That's
great
really
reporting.
good to know.
So
Yeah.
I just think, if they don't have school K-12 on Friday, a lot of those families are probably
They're
gonna
going
take a
skiing.
weekend doing
Right.
something.
Okay.
So that's just something to think about.
I'm really glad to know that. And he said the 20th wasn't off the table. Of the two, the 27th was easier, but he
Okay.
can make the 20th work. And it sounds like we really should be saying that's the target.
Yeah.
And you're
I
actually
would
more available
think
to
so.
be
Yeah.
research for him on that date.
Yeah, the 20th, actually.
Yeah. I knew you were not available the 27th. So, okay, we're gonna shoot for the 20th then, and we'll let Hector know that. You all don't have to be there for any of that. We're just
It
counting.
is a Saturday.
Gotta be on it.
It's a Saturday. Yeah. And,
That way you.
that's by design. We felt like, because it's in person and we want to bring in as many community members as we can. Now, could he get here maybe Friday afternoon to get students before? I mean, it's gonna be how he figures out travel and, if the airlines are on time, but we're gonna make a really busy long day on Saturday
He's coming from Chicago.
from Chicago, right?
Yeah. Where did they meet people at?
I was gonna ask you all, who leads the team as it relates to your English language learner, your dual language? Like I don't know what your director would be called.
Yeah, he's a coordinator, Osvaldo Garcia Contreras.
Say the
And-
first name again?
Osvaldo,
OSWALDO.
Okay, that's what I thought. Okay,
It's an
OV.
Osvaldo.
When we talk about focus groups, I'm really gonna wanna, speak directly with him
And
about what
we
we'll.
also partner really good with our community partners at Padua and Mujeres.
Yes.
And Central Cultural. And so we could invite them to help
Yeah.
us get people
100%.
involved.
We could go there too, like,
Yeah,
I mean,
that would
Hector's
be
got all
awesome.
day, like, you could be in a couple places, and I thought right away about, Central Cultural for sure.
Because it's on the bus, I mean,
Mhm.
it's accessible, and same with Alante, it's just, they're right up on
They're
Main
right on Main
Street.
Street, yeah.
And
Library
people
would
feel-
work too.
The library would work, and Cornell's has a very nice new library. Plus, sometimes if you're just, for targeting the, Latinx group, they feel more comfortable at those places sometimes, so I think that would be a good spot, and then we have, our migrant group, and they have
Yeah.
a TPAC group of parents, so that would be another group that we could include in that.
Yes,
Yeah, we would, I think. I'm gonna speak for myself.
please do.
But I don't think we want Osvaldo leading it.
No,
Just to put that out there.
Oh, is that the option to have us?
no,
Okay.
Hector will lead everything.
I know, but-
So you guys tell me, when we
As a
get to
point
the,
person.
when we get.
Just coordinating the outreach and the logistics of making. it.
Yeah,
As
I
it
don't know
comes,
if I feel comfortable for that.
Yeah. What's
David
your,
and I can work with,
what's your communication?
David and I work on that, with Osvaldo.
Okay, so
And-
we may
and
have
I-
everybody we need in France.
Maybe I would truly.
Yeah, and Arturo can help too.
Okay,
Yeah, we'll make.
yeah, everything event specific will be Hector. But I just needed to know who's gonna help us figure out who to get where.
Great.
Okay, that's me, you all. Okay,
Yeah.
wonderful.
Got it.
Take him.
Thank you. Yeah, got it. Wonderful.
Thank you.
Well, so all that outreach is happening in January. When we have all those focus groups complete, we will draft for you, based on what we've learned through surveys and in-person events, a next superintendent criteria. Again, we described this a little bit in our meeting, Hank and I. That is, if we bring a draft, that's something that you will look at in advance of, but then discuss in a public meeting like today. Maybe wordsmith a little, maybe say that one, that take some out, put something, you know, it needs to be your document, but we'll just bring a draft for your consideration. That then is the guide for the rest of the thing. That's how we know, okay, do the candidates, you know, do they meet this criteria in order to be considered for your position? That is, again, the first date we're gonna, when we circle back, the next date we need to set and get on the calendar. That's just my name. All right.
So let me ask this
Yes,
question.
please.
So are you putting anything out there right now that there's an available position for a superintendent here?
We, on our website, it says, now that after this contract was signed, so I think it went live yesterday, it just says, upcoming opportunities. I forget we have a tab at the top that says opportunities. Forest Grove is now already on that page, and it says for more information. Actually, I think right now it says call Robin Dean. And when I've actually had 2 people reach out, and when I do, I say great, and I put them on the log sheet and say I'm gonna get back with you. I don't know enough yet to share, but it's, you know, they'll be the first ones I reach out to. But it's a known with a lot of, and we'll get
We
back.
put it on COSA's website.
I saw that, and yeah, I saw that.
They asked us to do that, so David and I worked with John to get it on, just so that it's out there.
Yeah, and you know what, we could freshen that and actually, it'll bring it to the top, and direct them to the Human
Right.
Capital Enterprises
Yeah.
website.
Yeah.
We don't make the application live until we've held the meeting where you
Right.
agreed on the
Right,
criteria.
and I agree with that, but my thought was that just getting it out that there's a superintendent position open.
Mhm.
They can talk it over with their families over the
Right.
holidays, think about it.
And, we could freshen it and also have the link to our website. Yeah, okay.
So do you work with COSA or do we need to do that?
I need you to help with that
Okay,
because you're a member and we're not.
Okay,
So they charge us money and they don't charge
Okay.
anyone. So
yeah, we can do that.
That's the one. Yeah, we tend to write it. We'll work with comms because they're, super good help on that too, but then.
Okay,
help us.
perfect.
All right. So at the public board meeting, 3 things need to happen in February. And that is that you have to have an agenda item that is public input on qualifications to be sought in hiring a new superintendent. That is how the statute reads. Sometimes there is public inputs. A lot of times the public has been very engaged in the process up until then and doesn't come to that meeting, but nevertheless, it has to be on the agenda. At that meeting, you'll review and adopt that next superintendent criteria, and we'll discuss the salary range. It's required per Oregon statute that it be it's discussed in a public meeting. So between now and then, we will have a document with comparables. Usually is it 9 or 10 comparables that of districts of similar size, similar geography, and you'll have a range. You'll know what are contract packages looking like in those other locations for your discussion. You don't have to in that meeting land on a one number, but we do need a range at that point so that when we talk to candidates, that's one thing they will want to know, of course, and it's a matter of public record that it be on the agenda.
So we have to have that.
Robin, I have a question. So the special board meeting, it looks like you want to have that sort of as a separate meeting than a regular, you want to do that business in a special meeting, right? You don't want to do it at a regular board meeting. Is that right? I mean,
Right, yeah, I mean, would it be possible to do it at a regular board meeting? Yes, but it's about 90 minutes usually
Yeah,
start to
okay.
finish.
Okay,
And it makes for a really long night,
yeah,
so.
okay, got it. Just curious. Yeah.
For asking, Mark.
Yeah, my question was along the similar lines, because we can't, if you just look ahead, we can't announce the vacancy until we've done that special board meeting.
That's
Until
special,
they're done on
that's
the date.
exactly right.
So if we waited till the 12th, we wouldn't.
Right.
Okay, got it.
So
Yeah, and so I had a little caveat there that, you know, we could put these agenda items on that meeting if the special meeting is not until after that. But if not, then it really, we're delaying the posting and we're
Right.
trying to be,
Okay.
we're trying to be out there really 1st of April. I mean, very 1st of February would be a very meetable goal too, with January 20th being the in-person focus groups. So.
Yeah, that would be ideal timing wise.
That February 1st would be
Yeah.
February,
better.
like a February 5th special
Well,
meeting.
he's saying ideally if the
Oh.
first would be even
Okay.
more ideal, Thursday. We'll go back to the dates, but.
We're going
just
back,
to
yeah,
keep
let's
it
look
in
at
our
that
minds.
so that we can all lay it out.
But that's why we want to do the special board
That
meeting
is-
before the regular board
yeah.
meeting, so then we can post it
Right.
and move forward.
Right.
Right.
Okay.
Now, it's not that an application's never gone live before some of that's available, but honestly, people are wasting their time if they don't know anything about the district at that point, if they don't know what you're looking for. So, it really, we want to make it make sense. So, if I can move on, then we have that regular board meeting and then, we announce the vacancy. I'm saying by February 6th. So if, you know, if we went as late as the 5th, we'd go live the next day. We would announce on everything. Hank has had the best open rate on his e-blast when it's on a Friday afternoon or a Sunday afternoon, interestingly enough. People like right before they go home for the weekend, or, you know,
They're getting ready.
people who are getting ready for the weekend thinking, so that tomorrow morning's not too bad, I'm gonna open some email tonight. So,
No, the first is good, but the Thursday's good.
right, that Thursday meeting would be great, because we could either do it on Friday afternoon or Sunday afternoon. So we'll get the blast out. We'll get all our advertising live by the next day or the first thing the next week. So it can be one of the top advertisements on COSA, for example. So I'll talk with comms and with, this is too much detail probably. I'll talk with comms and HR about how to also have it visible on your application system without it being something they can actually apply to. So there's some strategies around that.
Okay.
All right, then we recruit. Our recruitment period, 4 weeks, is common. We've had, you know, sometimes we've got room to go longer. This time, I think that's the right window. So if we get live by February 1st, 2nd, 6th, somewhere in there, then we'll be all of February and into a little bit of March. The last little piece, not the last little piece, the last huge piece is the selection process. And that has many dates on it. We'll flip to the back in a second. So preliminary interviews are conducted virtually. Steve and I conduct those, Steve and I and Hector, so that based on, you know, let's say there's, I'm making up numbers, right? So let's say there's 20 applicants and we think these 10 or 9 or 10 rise to the top. Like, we'll conduct preliminary interviews and we'll do one reference check at that point. All of that's transcribed and provided to you, in addition to the applications of the folks that we did not elect to preliminarily interview. In 10 years, there's been one occasion where a board said, wait, you didn't do this person, so then the board did. So you do look at, you have access to all of them, but you'll have a little bit more information about the ones that we provide you their preliminary interview. We get all that information to you, and then we hold what we call the slate meeting. It's an executive session because we're talking about personnel. You'll have reviewed all the materials. We then come to you, talk to you about who we think is top tier and why we think so, based on all of our conversations with the folks that we've had to that point. And it's not just a preliminary interview. We've usually had multiple interactions with every one of these candidates at that point. So we'll bring that slate to you, and you will determine who among all of the candidates you want to interview in round 1. It may be 5, it may be 7. So
Typically,
typically,
that's the typical range, 5 to 7 in the first one.
And that's very confidential because a lot of those people haven't let anybody know they're applying.
we're gonna talk very specifically about
So
that.
the
Yes,
site meetings, you guys have already looked at the
Mhm.
people, checked a reference.
yes.
You've shown us all the people, we've got to look through their stuff, and then we sit down and hash it out.
All of us together and you select and
But I
then,
decided we wanted to.
right. And then we reach out and schedule those, for either one really long day, that's doable. It's actually longer for you than it is for us because you have to, I mean, we can actually get you started and then, go make a cup of tea because we just got our headset on, sort of listening and we don't have to. But you are really intently in every single one of these. So some boards want to do one long day because that's what they've got. And, people have to take a day off work, so they want to take one day. Others do 2 half days, like, just scheduled high desert DSD. We're going 1 to 8 one day and 1 to 5 the next. So we'll hash that out, when we get to the actual, when we circle back for dates, but think about that.
So Robin,
Yes.
it is about me. So this
It's
is
always
virtual?
better. Virtual, yes.
So, okay, so they're not actually coming in.
They do not need, and that's our recommendation, because then it doesn't matter where in the country they are, for that round, when you're not paying anybody's expenses to get here, and you're narrowing your field before you pay to have somebody come all the way out.
Do they meet together though, for the virtual meeting like this?
Here's my preference. I would like to say no, and here's why. It's a much better candidate experience when a candidate's got all of your faces on a screen than what Mark is seeing right now.
Right.
So for the candidate experience, I would like to say, now, I've had boards say, but we all want to, a couple people who didn't have great connectivity came into the district office in separate rooms, but it could, you don't want to echo all those things, but I would like it to be fully virtual. It's a better experience for the candidates and the communities when you could be, I'm clearly virtual, so. So that's virtual. Let's march along. We're getting there. After round 1, you'll determine who do you want to bring in for your finalists. That's usually 2 or 3 people is the norm. In between,
Oh, wait, can I have to
Yeah.
time out? So we do the virtual interviews, then do we meet in an executive session to discuss
the
who we
whole
want
thing's
to?
executive session, and by the end of, let's say you do 2 half days.
Yeah.
After the last candidate, we debrief the last candidate on the second day, then we stay put and we talk about all of them and select who are our finalists. So all that happens.
It's what we did
Yeah.
I remember all that stuff.
6 years ago.
Who was on the board 6 years ago of this? Everybody. Say the
Except needed to be.
All right, well, good.
So you're veterans, you've done this before.
Unless you like.
Yeah, good. So I'm gonna skip community engagement interview for just a minute, because what I wanna, say is you will select who you're bringing in for round 2. Round 2 with you all is definitely in person. That's when folks are coming from out of town, or probably, even if they're from Oregon, they're probably out of town, and they're interviewing with you face to face. In between round 1 and finalist, there'll be a community engagement interview, and a community, I'm gonna call it something different, community interview panel, including staff members. We'll work with you to design the who is in it, but 12 people is about the max that it's really reasonable to do. We also hold that virtually. So,
Did you say 12 people?
yeah,
That was the community engagement one?
that's the community interview panel. And I've got the word engagement there. I just didn't want to confuse anybody at engagement at the beginning to focus. So the community interview panel meets virtually with only the finalists. They sign a confidentiality affidavit with it's very scripted and very specific, because we are really clear, they're not making a recommendation to you. They are providing feedback on your finalists. They're not rank ordering. They're not saying, here's our choice.
Thank you.
They are giving lots of feedback and there's the interview's completely scripted. They don't get to ask follow-up questions because from my HR hat on, then it creates a different experience for different people. No follow-up. So one of their questions that they get to give feedback on individually at the end is, was there a question you wish you could have asked that you didn't get to ask? Did something make you scratch your head and you wish you could have asked more? We give you that list of questions because actually it might help you design your round 2 interview questions, which are they're not scripted like round 1 is. So
Robin, do board members ever listen into that or participate, not participate, but go watch those live or?
I haven't had a board member, have you?
No, I haven't.
I think I wouldn't recommend it. I want to think that all the way through, but you do get really great feedback. We have a very specific protocol around debriefing, so as not to go off the rails. Because you can have somebody who, my speech pathology term, uses more than their share of talking tokens, and so we're really careful about
Use that.
That's great. Yeah, you used all your talking tokens.
And is that panel also, is it confident, like, is it not
It is
public, or how does
It-
that,
it
it's
is-
not executive
It
session?
is not publicly known who is selected and sits on the panel.
Okay,
And because they're deliberating, interviewing candidates, it also is a non-public meeting.
So how
And
do we
it's
get their feedback? Do you guys email us?
right. We take copious notes in the moment and then clean them all up by the end of that same day. I mean, it's been my practice. Sometimes it takes overnight, depending upon how late, but you get them next day. So you in a OneDrive folder that we'll be sharing with you. So you'll be looking at all of that and have a sense of how things went as soon as.
And the panelists complete a short survey that is electronically pulled for you. So you'll see their comments around, I think, 2 or 3 questions, as I recall.
and when they, as far as their confidentiality piece goes, is it spelled out like, please don't go on your social media and put your opinions, or they're really not, do they sign something to say
They
you should not be saying anything to anyone?
Yes, and I'd be happy to just share with you what that confidentiality agreement looks like. We call it an affidavit, makes it sound even more official because it is.
Okay.
And it's when we get together, I don't let anybody even have access to materials until I have it. And then, when we're in the meeting, we say, we want to be really clear. Any conversation about anything that happens today, even with each other, after we leave this virtual room, is a violation of the agreement you just signed. Like, it's not, you cannot talk about this to your spouse, to your partner, to your colleague, to each other after today.
We're really explicit too in terms of any media capturing of any of the deliberations. So our direction is really specific. Put your phones away, do not take them out. If you need a break at some point over the course of the day, you must leave all of your materials at your place, step out of the room, and then you can pull your phone out.
And is that agreement binding even after we do select someone that may not be the person they wanted? So pretty much a eternal.
We definitely tell them that.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, at a certain point, is there
Right.
somebody who's gonna whisper to their neighbor, it's not the one I want?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know, but I sure hope not.
Okay.
We try really hard to be as clear as we can be about how much that messes up the process. It's not,
And if
So,
they were-
Robin, just a question. Have you ever had that go sideways, though? I know, I mean, with the affidavits and the, you know,
I-
and how do you respond if it goes sideways? How is
so
that?
let's take this.
Okay. Okay,
Yeah, if Hank were here, Hank would say in his decade plus of doing searches, he's never
Oh.
had a known violation of an affidavit agreement.
okay, good, okay.
So we haven't, the one thing I've had go sideways is the talking tokens piece. And you know, You know who's the worst violator is administrators, my friends, so.
Can you mute them though?
What?
Can't you just?
Oh,
mute
yeah,
them?
yeah, I mean, I shut that down, I shut that down. Boy, I mean, like, one time, right out of the gate, you know, somebody said, yeah, it's a no for me. Well, that shuts things right down, so now I give lots of examples of what crisp feedback sounds like and what does not sound like. So, all right, I think we're getting there. You'll have your round, so following the community engagement interview, you'll have all that information. Now you'll hold your round 2 interviews. We'll identify the dates for that. If you're at 3 people, is it possible to do it in a single day? It is. If you want to do it again in 2 half days, you can do 2 people one day and a third and a deliberation the next. And we can set aside time, and then should you end up saying, well, we're only going to invite 2, you know, we could tweak that just a bit, but we need the days on the calendar.
Is it usually 3?
Not always.
No,
It's 2 to 3 though.
it's common. I mean, we got a board say, there's only one and we love this one so much that kind of gets sideways with the community and panel who says, well, wait, you're only giving me one, but it was actually the right choice in the end, you know, so it happens. But 2 or 3 is very common.
Can I ask another question? So when you get down to the finalists, and you say like there's 2 or 3, how do I ask this? I mean, do you ever have a cut line, which there's, you know, we're not taking anybody below this cut line, and maybe it's, I don't, you know, maybe it's the 4th person and we're only taking the top 3, you know what I mean? How do you do that? Because, and I ask that because, I mean, you know this, that there'll be other jobs and people will be applying. And so your number 1 might not be your number 1, you know, so how far down the list do you go? I guess that's what I'm asking.
Isn't that our decision, Mark?
It is your decision.
Well, but okay, I was asking their
yeah,
experience, so.
it's absolutely your call. And I would add, I don't think you want to engage anybody who doesn't have a legitimate shot at
Right.
getting the job. So
Right.
there are occasionally times when people say, we got 2 that we're crazy about.
Yeah.
And this 3rd is pretty good, but we're not as crazy as 1 or 2, but let's invite them just in case 1 or 2 bows out.
Okay.
I
Yeah.
think that's when you want to say, if one, I don't know, that we'll have that conversation in a moment.
Yeah. I understand. I was from your experience, I was just wondering, so.
Yeah.
So we actually tried to hire number 1 2 superintendents ago. And then they took another job, and then we went down to the 2nd applicant.
Yeah.
So you get that 3rd, but we got to the 2nd.
Yeah.
We do bring to you in tiers at the slate meeting all of the candidates who have submitted applications. And again, this is given our review of their application materials and our interactions at the preliminary interview and the reference call. And then professionally, we exercise judgment around, again, anchored against your next superintendent criteria, who the top tier candidates are in our judgment, who the 2nd tier candidates are in our judgment, and then who are the 3rd tier candidates who we would say likely don't meet enough of the criteria identified by the community and acted on by the board in order to be considered.
Right.
Okay.
That's been our experience.
Mhm.
So the same type of format.
Great.
Yeah.
Good. So, at the point at which, at round 1 interview, at that point, you'll identify your 2 or 3 or however many finalists.
Yeah.
The contract, we've already determined, that you want to start the background checks then, so that you don't get 2 weeks later having your round two, make a selection and then learn something that is concerning, right? So background checks will be going between round one and so will your reference calls. We do invite all of the board to engage in multiple reference calls. Will guide that process, but you know, somebody will say, I really want to hear from the high school principal, and that person will call the high school principal for one or two for each of the, so you'll pick a position or two and call every candidate's reference in the, and they're not picking the people at that point. You're saying, here's the position we want. We want to talk to the CFO, and we find out who's the current CFO working with that candidate. That's the name you're gonna get, whether or not they're listed as the reference.
Would you screen if, a candidate's applying but still doesn't want, what does it look like for references for people that don't really want the CFO getting a call to tip people off that they're applying?
We work with the finalists, and we populate the names assigned to the role. So if we've got 3 finalists and you want to speak to the CFO, we populate the current CFO in that reference call list. If, for example, they're concerned because one CFO has a proclivity to be a gossip, then we'll work with that candidate to try to substitute someone that they have greater confidence in. And then what we do in terms of confidentiality, maintaining confidentiality. And then what we do is we provide that list to the candidate, and then the candidate has to inform in advance of those calls all of the identified individuals that will be called.
So at that point, there's a certain level of confidentiality they have to give up, because that, you know, it's important that you talk to the people, right?
Yeah, this board has to do their due diligence.
In the past, the last round, we, if they were in Oregon, we went to their schools and met with their staff. And so 2 of us would go, and then we flip-flopped, and then the 2 that didn't go, they would take them out to dinner. So I don't know if the board still wants to do that, but I thought it was really insightful.
And we're gonna talk at length about that on the, when we get back to the agenda item.
Okay.
It's actually under publicity issues, but we are gonna, that's an important conversation, and so we're gonna have it. So we are now to the announcement by May 1st, working with comms on that, and
So that's what, by May 1st, I was looking at the calendar, and our board meeting would be like April 22nd, but is that, would we probably have a special?
you're probably
Board
gonna have to
meeting?
have a special board meeting.
Because we wouldn't know by April.
It's very common to deliberately create a special board meeting for the purpose of taking action on that appointment,
Yeah,
because it also is a cause of celebration and community engagement.
it's a one agenda item meeting, and the community gets pretty excited, and you get to say nice things about the new person, and they get to say hello, and it's really lovely.
It's the big reveal.
That's
It's the reveal.
It's the house has been remodeled.
Oh, yeah, awesome.
Right.
All right, let's march back to the beginning
Okay,
and say,
and now pull out our calendars for real?
let's pull out your calendars for real. I'm allowing it now.
I'm sorry, Kate was talking.
I was gonna say.
Gave me her stock tokens.
No, I haven't.
They're,
All right, so the special board meeting is the first time we need, we need to get you all back together, and I'm gonna open my calendar at the same time in case we have to flex from some of the suggested dates.
So we're gonna start with the special board meeting and then
We
go back to
are,
the.
we're gonna go to
stakeholder.
special board meeting. We've got the 1st or the 5th available
Of
of
February.
February, and our preference would be after 2 in the afternoon, because
do we all have to be there?
you do. The dates that we're gonna agree on right now, it's, you must all, I mean, really, it's the full board's job, and we need the whole board.
It'll be somewhere in the world.
The which islands?
Well, we'll go with you.
Damn.
I could probably do a virtual from there.
Mhm.
Yeah.
We just have to
I don't
make
think
sure
you
that
probably want
we
to,
have
but-
to add, so
Okay, so there's
some
not-
of our Zoom stuff, we have certain countries that aren't
Oh,
allowed in,
okay.
so we have to make sure we add them in.
And if it was after 2, it would be what time there? 3, 4?
Who knows? Which islands did
Well, I
you
don't know,
say?
you could have had a lot of bourbon.
Staff is in charge.
3 hours for sure.
You could have had a lot
I'll
of
find
bourbon by like 7 or 8 o'clock at night.
That will be my
So
job.
we're talking February.
So you
1st,
want to be on
correct?
the first or the fifth?
I thought you guys preferred the first because
Yeah,
the
We can get it
posting,
posted all the faster.
the
so-
second or the Sunday.
Mhm.
Can we say 2 o'clock on the first?
Yes,
Staff meeting.
Thanks, Mark.
But
I'll move the district office staff meeting.
Thanks.
I mean,
Okay.
for me, that's fine, for me.
that works for you,
Does
Mark?
that work? for
Yeah,
you?
yeah.
It is about 90 minutes usually. And it could well be done faster than that,
Thing or?
depending upon how much.
Is there any chance of doing it at one?
But is it something?
I mean, we can.
We do 1:30, okay?
Hold on 1 second.
I would really prefer that.
Yeah, 1:30 is fine for me, yeah.
Monday.
Can you look at the fifth, Mark? Because there's a
Yeah.
possibility that works better for some in the room.
Oh, okay.
6.
The 5th. Okay, that's not a board meeting night, is it? I got it
No.
wrong.
It's a Monday.
Okay, yeah, that'd be fine as well.
That work for everybody else? Does that work for you?
Could we, well, Henry's at 1:30. Could we do earlier in the day, like 11:30 to 1:30 or 11?
Then Hector can't make it. Does he need to make it?
Well, he doesn't have, I mean, we're just trying as much as
Yeah.
we can, but we are both. No, I didn't,
I'm good.
yeah.
It's out of 1.
Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I know.
I can meet at that time, yeah, that's fine.
I'm giving them a look.
Did you say 11?
11:30.
So if we're gonna have public input for criteria, if we do it 11.
Yeah, we need to
how
do it in
many
the
people are gonna- Not very many people are gonna be able to.
And I mean, we're just saying, you want to wait till 5? I mean,
I mean, I can just see.
Say 4 hours ahead.
Yeah, we can just stay.
Yeah, so if it's 5 here, it'll be 9 o'clock.
That's not good.
That's what I'm saying.
9 to 10:30.
You can take it.
I'm fine with the during the day, I'm just trying to think that.
No, I agree with what you're saying about the public input. I think that having it in the middle of the day is not, if we want public input and we want to be perceived that we care about what the public is, we can't hold the meeting
So
at 11 o'clock.
what do you think, 5 o'clock on the 5th? Would that work? Would that work for you?
We'll make it work.
Yeah. Everybody, does that work? Okay, that works for me.
Yeah.
5 o'clock, fifth, Mark?
Mark did it in Italy. He was up like 2 in the morning, remember?
Yeah, I remember
Oh,
that.
that's right.
So do we think 5 o'clock's good? Does that maybe
I was in
5:30?
Germany,
No,
Germany, sorry, Mark.
You were somewhere.
yeah.
You were a wreck.
5 o'clock on the 5th then, right?
Yeah.
Okay, okay.
Okay.
Sounds
I mean,
good.
could you do 5 o'clock on the Thursday? Or no? you still
No,
have that thing?
no.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
All right.
Too popular.
The next piece, the announcement, that's, I don't need the board's attention to those dates. If we could now jump down to the slate meeting.
Hold on, that first meeting you thought was an hour and a half.
Yeah, we're gonna book 90 minutes on your calendars, and we think you're gonna be pleasantly surprised that we can be done faster than that.
So I don't need it.
But if I say 60 and we run late, it makes, it's no
Okay.
good.
Just wanted to get it in right. I was gonna
Yeah.
say 5 to 7, but
This is-
yeah. Okay, so now we're going down to the slate meeting.
To the slate meeting, which is under that selection process, we have suggested March 14th or 15th. That gives you about a week to read all the materials after our preliminaries. That is an executive session, so time of day, not so critical.
Okay, I get back from Indian Wells on the 14th. I'm back at 12:15, so I could probably do anything after 1:30-ish. No, we're in March.
March
So
14th.
I'm available Friday all day or anytime
Yeah.
after 1:30, 2 o'clock on Thursday.
I'm available all
I
day
know.
Friday.
Are you on vacation again?
No comment.
Are you gonna get any else with me?
Is it tiring? 2 hour, how long? Slate meeting, I think you're gonna wanna,
chunk for baseball.
A chunk, I mean, 90 minutes to
90
two,
minutes.
I'd say 90 minutes again.
Okay.
So what, you were not available Thursday afternoon, so Friday, is that?
Are you Friday? Are you
But
good
Friday,
Friday?
Friday works for me.
Yeah.
Could we make that at 2 so that, because Hector will have engaged with all of these people, right, like we have, it'd be really nice.
Will that
to-
work?
Are you back in
Okay.
time?
So you're going the 15th now?
Or 2:30 or 3,
At what time?
I guess.
Sorry, I'm trying to book a Grover.
No, it's fine. Oh, because we can't book it yet, because we have to, you gotta wait till we all come.
I was doing the other one. It takes a while to get through.
Well, it's okay, don't, we still have
Not
to
for
talk
us.
about
Nope.
Can we do 4 to?
Sure. On Friday or Thursday?
Friday.
Thursday or Friday?
I don't want to do Friday,
Oh,
Thursday.
3 to
And
5.
Kathy doesn't want to have to be here till 6 on
I
Friday.
can't do until 6 o'clock.
You'll be
on
gone?
Thursday.
I can't do Friday.
All day, I mean,
It's Friday,
I could do Friday morning.
But now you're somewhere.
but I could rearrange.
Oh,
No,
no.
back Friday.
Could we do like Friday, 11:30, 1:30?
Time me.
Okay.
Is there another day?
Oh,
Could you be
Hector,
available?
Hector can't, but, you know, we're trying to include him in as much as we possibly can, but,
I haven't booked
I would get
anything yet,
that.
so I'm waiting for this to get done and then I'll spring training trip.
well, it's a surprise.
What did you look up?
That's pretty. I'll be virtual, because I'll be down there.
What do you think she could do?
I'm headed down the week after.
Yeah, yeah. It's a
Okay.
annual.
Annual.
This is when we're settling on our Friday seven, so the week before we'll have gone through, they're gonna go do their preliminary March 8th, and then we'll have a week to look through all the materials. And then that
I'll
meeting,
just do a virtual.
when we're gonna talk about
I'll be
that.
prepared.
Bring it.
So you can't be anywhere longer than a minute.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
So could we do Friday? So you would be virtual no matter what, so.
You know what? Wait, no, let's just do it and I'll just have Kevin take a half day. That'll be a good excuse for him to. I've got a special needs son, Kevin, yeah, so I'm sorry.
Full days. They should have full days.
Yeah, we're
Fine
gonna,
with that, yeah.
I know, that's a whole nother discussion. Okay. Let's just
Not
do
you.
Friday. What was your original time?
Well, it'd be great to have Hector there, I think.
Which would be great. because I
So
want
if we could do 2 to 4, Kathy, then that's. I mean,
And I actually think,
not ideal, but better.
No, that's fine.
and Hector and I have
On
both.
Friday.
yeah, okay, perfect.
Okay, Mark, can you do Friday, March 15th from 2 to 4? For the slate meeting?
Okay, let me look here.
15th.
March 15th at
Yeah.
2 to 4.
Yeah.
I think I can, yeah. Yeah,
Great.
You're gonna get better ticket prices on Saturday morning anyway. There I am, being a Pollyanna. Okay, so now your round one interviews. I will tell you that the reason they are April 4th and 5th is which is a stretch of time between the 15th of March, but the following week is just really off the table for both of us with other searches, and the next week after that is spring break. So that's our deal. That's
Yeah.
right. Yeah. I didn't imagine
That's all right.
you all were,
Is Hector coming to this late meeting too?
he will.
And
Yeah,
he'll
that's why we
join,
wanted to have it at 2.
he'll join virtually. I will be here in person.
Steve will be in person, I'll be in surprise.
So April 4th and 5th.
Yeah, so do you want to do 2 half days?
2 half days.
And what do those days look like for you all? So it could be it's virtual, so it could be mornings, it could be afternoon, it could be one of each, one afternoon.
All days, I'm good all day on Thursdays to 3:30.
Okay.
Until 3:30, is it?
You wanna do 2 half days, just Fred? You don't wanna do a full day?
I don't.
Mark, are you fine with 2 half days?
on the 4th and 5th, half day each.
I have a commitment at 3:45 on Thursday, but I
We'll be done by then, she has to be done by 3:30.
Okay, all right.
So, but perhaps we want to make, depending upon how many candidates you have, maybe that one, like the first one a little bit longer and the next day,
Yeah.
not quite as long.
And then we also have time after to
Right,
talk, yeah.
That way, if you only have 2 candidates you advance, you could possibly get this completed on that first day.
Okay,
if you extend a little bit more.
That's just round one.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, we're at round one, but.
Apologies.
But it could be five,
But
seven.
still, it'll be nice to have a longer day
It'll
and a
still be
shorter
long,
day.
right? So we're looking at
April fourth.
April fourth from, shall we just start in the morning, like? Eight,
Kathy, how does that
nine?
they look for the rooms and stuff?
Well.
We're virtual.
it's 9.
We're all virtual actually.
Nine, okay.
Are we all, we're all.
We
We're
are
all
all
virtual.
virtual.
So not, 9 o'clock start, would that be all right? Like
Yeah.
9 to 3
That-
for the first day?
9 to 3. So we're at home on our.
Mark, is
computer.
that,
You are at
Mark,
home.
is that fine? It would be a virtual interview process. Everybody could be at home or at the library or here. 9 to 3 on Thursday, the 4th.
Okay. 9 to 3 on Thursday, the 4th. Okay.
And then what are we gonna do on Friday? I just, I'm wrong one second.
I'm good till 1:30 on Friday, if it could be 9 to 1:30.
91:30?
Yeah, that works for me.
I mean, we'll just know the times. On the first day, we have.
Friday, you fine with that?
We do the orientation.
I'm good with that, yeah.
Second,
Mark, are you fine with Friday, 9 to 1:30, the 5th?
Yeah. Now, what was the Thursday? 9 to what time? 9 to
3.
9 to 3.
9 to 3. Okay.
And Friday
Is
was-
that just for one candidate? Is
no,
that?
no, that's probably 4 or 5, and then the next day, 2 or 3 more.
Got it.
This is-
Got it. Okay. Got
Round
it.
1 will probably be 5.
Oh, because it's
5 to
round
5 to
one.
7.
Round one. Okay. Got it. Got it.
So we'll schedule that, and then, we'll figure out when to have the community interview based on when we do your, now we need to get to finals. So wondering about, these are in person. And that includes Steve and I both.
Okay.
So April 19th and 20th. I am, back and you're not paying for my travel.
Okay,
Um,
well, that's always nice.
yeah, right? So I'm just gonna drive out here from, so what is your availability? This is probably now, you're down to 2 or 3 candidates, so it's probably 2 4-hour days. Or 1 8-hour.
So that's the 19th of Friday.
Yeah,
Could we do 9 to 1 on that Friday and then however long it takes on everything?
yeah,
Do you want to do it on Saturday? Or
we're fine with a Saturday, absolutely.
Just take today, but I wasn't sure.
Would you like to, that we,
You guys want to do it on Saturday? I don't know how
I
that.
can. Wait,
No,
you're
she's
here.
back on that.
I'm back by the
You do it Monday.
15th or 16th.
Oh,
She's back by the 5th.
Yeah.
I mean, I just think it'd be better to do it on the weekdays so that Kathy's already here and working and whatever.
So the 19th on Friday and the following Monday.
Or she,
the second.
she gets it 15 and 16. Or
Oh, okay.
when you get here.
I had the 18th and 19th as possibilities. I'm not saying we
Okay.
can't spill over into Monday, if that's better for people, but for candidate travel, a Friday or a Monday are best, and we would arrange, like, if somebody's closer, having them do the Thursday, and then somebody's farther away, get it
Yeah.
on to Friday.
Okay, look, how does the April 18th and 19th look for you guys?
I can do April 8th, from 9 until
That's kind of good.
3:30.
What time would you like to start? Could we do? You want the 9?
What works for you?
9 to 3 again.
9 until 1?
You know,
I don't think-
yeah. So the thing I would put out there is that, well, let's hold space on both days like we just did for the round one
Mhm.
on Thursday and Friday, but let's say you only have 2
Right,
finalists.
then we'll,
We'll be able to either we'll be able to finish on Thursday.
yeah, we can either finish on Thursday or we can say we're gonna do it, whatever.
Yeah.
On Friday.
So what was the times again for the 18th and 19th?
The 18th is, we have 9 to 3 blocked out, but we can kind of finalize
Okay.
it later,
Well, yeah,
right?
Okay.
And then on the 19th, what do we want to block out then?
9 to 1. 9 to 1 again. Shall we do the same as, and hold all that space, and it's possible we won't need it.
Okay.
Mark, does that work for you?
Yeah. What 18th from 9 to what time?
3.
Okay. And then the 19th, or is it?
9 to 1:30. And we might not have to use all those times both days, but we're just gonna, mark it off in our calendars just in case.
9 to 1:30. Okay. I gotta step away for just a second, but I'll get these. I'll be right back.
That's okay, thanks.
Great. I
And
think we
those
did
are
it.
also,
Okay.
are those gonna be virtual or no?
The finalists are in person,
Okay,
and we'll both be.
We're gonna have to find. a place to have them.
Oh,
Down
let-
here.
no,
Well, last time,
connections.
yeah.
Yell no. What did I
Yes,
like?
you can yell that.
Okay, fine. Is we very much like to be off-site, like not in a district facility. These people are coming in, but it's still
So
confidential.
last time we did it at the city
Yeah,
auditorium.
that-
That'd be lovely. That'd be perfect.
So we could ask, let's put that on my.
So get those on
You know
that.
anybody now?
I don't know either.
No, I'll call.
Christie, how about you?
We did do it there.
Christie will do it.
Kathy will call.
Kathy's
Oh.
got it, okay,
Okay.
wonderful, yes, thank you.
So
letting me
for
shout
both
it.
days, I think we used one of the side rooms. We had a
We
couple
did.
side rooms.
We used the side room, yes.
Great. So we'll, that'll be great, looking forward to it.
So all this stuff, this information, that's gonna be on a OneDrive. So like when we're after March 8th or 9th, you guys do your preliminary interviews and we review those materials, that will all be on a OneDrive or whatever. 'Cause I'm
Yeah.
gonna be out of town, so then I'm like.
And Steve and I will kind of consult about this. We've done it a couple of ways. Sometimes I have to go into our application system, I make a full packet, I put it in a OneDrive, it's a document. We've had other boards where we've actually given access to our application system, so you see in real time, like, not real time, but you see. And you've done it that way more than I have. In fact, I haven't done it that way.
I've done that once.
Okay,
Mostly because the board wanted access
Okay.
to all of those documents. And we're comfortable. I
Comfortable
think.
with you. One, you have to learn what our system does, how it, and the other, I provide you a PDF packet, so, which
That's
is,
lovely.
yeah.
Yeah, and it's uploaded to OneDrive and you've got
OneDrive.
the candidates
Yeah,
with.
and once it's up there, actually, then as the candidates winnow, then I'm just able to continue to pull packets into like other, the community engagement group and things like that. The movement works fine. All right, well, we have
Okay.
now identified our timeline. I'm going to, after today's meeting, put all these dates on a slightly different version of this
Yes.
so that it can be posted at the website as here's our timeline. And we'll talk about it.
Do we need to identify the stakeholder meeting times and the meeting times with us?
Yes, I'd love to schedule a one-on-one times with you. We could do that after the meeting. We could get through the agenda and then I could ask each of you to pull out your calendars and we can figure those out. But you said something else. The community.
The
Stakeholder interview panel.
Now that I know we're gonna do the 18th and 19th, I'm looking at the week of April. I'm likely going to schedule the community stakeholders for Tuesday the 10th, just based on other things on the calendar.
Okay, hold on a minute. That's
Does that work for
the
you?
community engagement interviews?
Yes,
That's the one you're talking about? Tuesday, the 10th of
Tuesday the 9th or Wednesday the 10th. Did you look at
April?
Yeah, got a couple.
What are we doing now?
I'm just asking her about the community.
Tuesday the 9th?
Community engagement, not the.
So it'll be Tuesday the 9th.
Okay, so
And that'll
April
be
9th
on.
will be that one.
And that's virtual.
That was virtual, but I was talking about the ones at the very beginning, the 15
Yes.
stakeholder focus for January 8th through the 22nd.
The 15 stakeholder, yes, we're gonna get to that on the next
Oh, we're gonna
agenda
go
item.
through it.
Yeah.
Relax.
I want all these dates.
I know. Well, we wanted to first identify the ones we have to have you all at.
Yeah.
And now we're gonna,
We'll work directly with the district point of contact, whoever is helping with the logistics on scheduling those focus group.
But do we get a say in who we want
Yeah.
for those focus groups?
Yes.
they're definitely gonna talk about that.
Most definitely.
Mhm. Great. You definitely do, and it matters a great deal. Who you want to have there. So having established our timeline,
So we can cross that off.
we're on to item number 4, right? The staff support.
So it sounds like we have some direction already in terms of who will take the lead on the district facing side with staff support. We do all of the project management. We take great pride in delivering an unparalleled search experience, not just for you and the community, but also for staff. Because they've got full plates already. But there are a few areas, obviously, that we'll need some support with. First is the logistics around the focus groups. Scheduling those, yes. Scheduling those, communicating with participants. Sometimes we have more interest than spots available, so we facilitate that selection process through the use of a lottery. All of that is managed internally through our district point of contact. And then the second piece really is around communications. And we work really closely with the communication lead. It's probably David. Oftentimes we'll provide boilerplate sort of search updates that we've used in the past. That gets pushed to the communication lead, and you tailor it however you see fit. This is your communication. It's not our communication. You know your audiences, you know your community well, but we sequence that at key mileposts along the search timeline so that everybody is anticipating, like, this is the next step in the process. And then once we get to a place where, for example, the board acts on the next superintendent criteria, there's a communication that is released at the same time in which the board acts on that next superintendent criteria, so that everything is sort of seamlessly integrated. And my assumption is, David, you're going to be our point of contact for comms. And then it sounds like Kathy will be our point of contact on all of the logistics. Okay.
Yep.
Did I miss anything?
No.
Okay.
No. So the next item on our agenda is planning for focus groups. And we do definitely want to know the board's prerogative on this. Usually we don't spend a bunch of time in this meeting establishing every single focus group. What we establish is a subcommittee, like two board members who want to meet with us again, and comms and Kathy around the logistics. But all of you have opinions and want to weigh in on, having seen some recommendations on a list, what's missing, what's there that's not, doesn't work in your context. There's 15 groups. We can facilitate more than that, but that's what's in the contract. They're 40 minutes in length. They're 5 to 7 people. And we have some typically things that happen. That's why they're kind of on our recommended list. So I wanted to ask today, are there a couple people very interested in drilling down on this with myself and Steve and potentially Hector, or one of us or all of us? And yes, please do.
I need the link so Hector can join.
I sent him a panelist invite.
Okay. Sorry.
Yeah, we could, if we need to do it again, we can do it from right here too.
That might be helpful, because do you have his email?
I do.
Okay. Kathy, Christy, I'm sorry, were you raising your hand because you were really interested?
Well, I was, but I
You send that.
I'll
to-
do it with you.
Well, let's see if everybody, Mark, do you want to do it? Brad, what do you guys feel about the stakeholders thing? I'm interested too.
So here's what we could do. We could drill down a little further as a whole group on this list, which I don't think we want to spend 30 minutes on it, but I think we could sure spend 10. And then you're weighing in on as a group. And then those who do meet after the fact would have a pretty good guidance, because a bunch of it is logistics. And like the who's admin team, is that cabinet, is that principals, is that,
Right.
but we could, it's your meeting, so I want to hear your thoughts about that. And we've lost Mark for the moment.
Mark, are you there?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
so do you have thoughts on that? Having just 2 people do it, or do we all want to stay in it, or what do you guys think about it?
I would also say, I do want you all to have a say in it. So even the two, I would say, if we're gonna meet in 2 days' time, in those 2 days, get with your, if Mark's on the committee,
Oh,
everybody tell what you think, so you're having conversations. But we can also drill a little deeper right now, we just probably aren't gonna land on 100% of
How about I think we should try to talk about it right now for 15 to 20 minutes, so everybody can have a say in it, and then elect 2 people or.
And then have to leave at 2:30.
That's right, so let's talk, are you fine talking about that for?
Yeah, is there anything other?
Well, could we
Can you
come
listen
back
to
to it then? So that we I wanna talk about, I wanna be sure we get to, internal candidates and publicity issues before we lose Kate.
Okay, let's go
How's
for
that?
it.
And because we can certainly come back to that, Ed.
Okay.
Because the other couple of these are really fast. So jumping for a minute from the focus groups, and we'll say hello to Hector when he arrives. Let's talk for a minute about internal candidates, and that's your topic.
Yeah.
So
we don't know at this moment in time if you will have any internal candidates. It's possible that you may. Most boards will say to us as a firm that we want any potential internal candidate to run to experience the search process similar to all of the other candidates. Approximately 90% of the boards that we work with say there isn't any sort of special dispensation for an internal candidate. Occasionally, however, we do have boards who say either upfront or sometimes in the middle of a search that the internal candidate might be their preferred candidate. And so we pivot and we work closely with a board and design a process that meets the interest of the board's consensus around the identification of an internal candidate as the preferred candidate. But our recommendation to boards is if you have an internal candidate, they should experience the search similar to all of the external candidates. And we just want to check and get direction to see if that is in fact the approach you would like us to to use in managing any potential internal candidate.
And if I could add one thing, that is that we have heard, you've probably heard the phrase of courtesy interview. When we say experience the same thing, we certainly mean that for every mark along the way, they need to meet all of the criteria to go to the next post nobody gets a courtesy interview if in fact they don't meet the criteria, and it's been established they don't meet the criteria once the criteria has been assigned. Does that make?
I think that that's how I would feel comfortable doing it, that everybody needs to meet the same criteria. I speak for myself.
That's what we've done in the past.
Yeah.
So
All right.
Mark?
Yeah.
we haven't had any courtesy interviews. They've been gone through the whole process.
Yeah. Wonderful.
And if they go through the process and they still don't warrant the interview, then they won't get the interview.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
All right. And the next item is super fast, survey translations. Are there any other languages you would identify as necessary on the survey besides Spanish and English?
I don't think so.
All right.
Are people able to select? Well, no, they're not very.
We have a few others, but very few, like I would say less than probably 2 or 3 others that I've seen on other surveys that they have used Google Translate to use those
Okay.
languages.
Okay.
Yeah, most districts that we work with just use 2 languages, English and Spanish. However, we conducted a search for Bellevue School District in the Seattle area last year, and they have a large Mandarin speaking population. And so we had to contract actually with a Mandarin translator to get all of that translated.
Typically, just you do Spanish here.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So jumping to 8, which is a really important topic, we want to get to before Kate has to step out. Oh,
I'll be right back.
okay. I'm gonna turn that over, back over to Steve.
What about when are we on?
Publicity is number 8.
Great.
Most of the searches we do, we do not publicly release names of candidates. And this is different today than it was perhaps 10 years ago when names of semifinalists were released, finalists released, public vetting in forums. Given the context of the marketplace, it has become increasingly common to keep those names not publicly revealed. And it makes great good sense to do so from a recruitment standpoint. This is a mid-size school district that will be in a desirable place to live and raise a family. This will be attractive to sitting superintendents. And sitting superintendents often have reputation risk exposure. If they're making applications to another district, that application then becomes publicly known. And they don't land the job, then it creates this sort of discomfort with their existing board, stakeholders, patrons in their community. And one of the questions Robin and I, Hank, Hector will be asked will be that question. Will our names be publicly released as an applicant or as a candidate for the Forest Grove superintendency? So we strongly recommend that you not release those names, but that is your decision. So we're looking for direction here around how you'd like that approach.
Can I ask how you approach it with, I know a district here just did a search and some of the feedback from the community was, it seemed because from the outside, everything is kept so, on the hush hush, that there was an idea by some that maybe it was not, that it was all pre-planned, they picked it. So how do you communicate to the community, like we won't be releasing the names, but this is why, to sort of negate that possible perception? You can't probably.
We do. We have some communications talking points, FAQs that we provide to Consley to help frame why that approach is taken in most searches today.
It really will it will positively impact your pool.
Without question.
Because they don't want to be outed and then, they don't get the job and now they're bored things. Well, they got one foot out the door. When in fact, it was the only job they applied for because they just couldn't pass it up. Right?
Well, I would say yes, that we don't want to announce them. That's what I would say. That's what I would say.
That's how we did it last time too.
Last 3 or 4 times.
Yeah, we have never, never published anybody's name, and we wouldn't want to. I don't think we want to do that.
But it does speak to your question. Oh, there's Hector. It does speak to your question about visiting, though, because if you visited a couple different people, then now their names are out. Really, in our recommendation, no names are known until the chosen name is known.
Oh, that's different. And that's different than what we did last.
Yeah, but we also had those 2 or 3 people come and do like a community outreach event or program one night. So they were out then. Yeah, we went to see them like that week too. So we just wouldn't be doing that.
We recommend a very completely confidential process. And communicating it well along the way with your patrons. That it's about the best outcome in the final.
Well,
The only piece about that is the community perception of not being able to themselves see the final 2 and be able to, and I don't know, you guys went through that, so that seems like that was a positive thing for the community to feel like they could see.
So everything was confidential until we got to the final 2. And then we did, Kate said, Val and I went to Newburgh, and then talked to some of the people around Dave's work, and then who's the other person?
Oh, it was Joe.
Joe, that's right,
With us,
Joe.
we go.
So,
Yeah.
same thing, and then, I mean, at that point, yeah, at that point, we got there okay with it, and
But your point is
But
that.
our point is there are people who won't apply in the first place if they know that's
I
on the
understand that.
table.
I understand that point.
Yeah.
I just think that that was beneficial, I'm just gonna say that was beneficial for us, I think I can speak for.
I thought it was very bad.
So. It's a small, well, we know people in different districts and we get feedback from them and whether we want it or not. So it's better sometimes just to go there and talk with people and set up meetings and those kinds of things. I'm okay not doing it, but I'm just saying it was helpful for us when we did it last time.
If you did it all the way through confidential, the community would still be able to know, at this point, we have 5 candidates, like that's very clearly
Yes.
communicated, and now at this point, we've taken it down to 3, but I'm okay with the confidentiality all the way through, as long as we over communicate, like, we had 5, and the next step is these 15 people in the community
Right.
who were not allowed to share, but we brought, so I'm just trying to think, if you're a community member that doesn't know any of this process, does at any point in time people say, wait a second? You know,
I think
don't know.
communicating that there is a stakeholder group that is providing meaningful, I think for me, the question also becomes the meaningful feedback piece. Like, I hear you saying, and I believe you, that it was meaningful for you to visit Dave Parker's building. And it is, right? It was for you, but
I understand.
we're just trying to imagine ways that we give you everything you need without.
And I would also say that while it was meaningful, it didn't change my decision, right? It wasn't like that's what sold me on him. I was already sold on him, probably.
You'll have several data points, absent, or you'll have several data points of input from, employees that work with those finalists. The references include 6 calls. And so you'll have plenty of information from those references. You'll receive this data from the stakeholder interview panel because they will interview and provide feedback and input. So the question, of course, is, are you seeking more data regarding their efficacy in that role? Or is it about the optics of public participation and engagement?
I think if you think of a person that's just in the community and they haven't, and all of it's cloaked up, but you get a great person, then they'll forget about it. But there will be some blowback from the community members, because the whole thing is from last year, wasn't it? With the whole community is like, we want to engage. And now we're saying, well, here's our superintendent hire, and nobody really can be engaged except a secret group of people that we can't tell you who they are, but believe us. So it just depends how you guys did it before. How many people in the community think really wanted to come to that meet and greet?
I don't recall any pushback by the community.
Well, then,
Because they really wanted to get rid of our last superintendent. To be really honest, I mean, it was awful.
That's how you think.
It was awful, and, so the thing is, you know, I really think. I she was. The other thing is that couldn't you, just say that when we get down to the last 2, they may want to come to your school, or they may want to take you out to dinner, and how do you feel about that?
but they're saying they won't even
Well,
apply to get that if we don't.
If the board wants to take them out to dinner, I don't think we're ruling that out, are we? I mean, maybe we are. No, it's not confidential if you're out in the community having dinner. So
Well, I guess the
But-
calculus is, excuse me.
the question is about others weighing in and it being a known thing, right? So
So I think the calculus is, if the board chooses to go that route, a visit or
Mhm.
a dinner or whatever, then what they're saying is that there's a chance that we'll have candidates that won't apply.
Yeah,
So, I mean, if we want to take that and say, okay, we know we're gonna have people that might not apply. We still want to do this, that's one thing, or we say, it wasn't that helpful and maybe we just go with.
Well, I think what Steve said is like a very valid point, that when we call the references, that's the information that I'm gonna get if I went to the building, if I went to that district and I went and talked to the CFO and I went and talked to the high
Not
school
always.
science teacher. I mean, yes and no. I would think so, because what you said, we're not calling their reference list, we're saying we wanna talk to the CFO, we wanna talk to the second grade teacher.
I've
Like-
literally had somebody say, we want to talk to the athletic director, which is an interesting thing. I mean, so people have their, right? So
Yeah.
some of the people you'd meet in a walkabout, who do you want to meet in a walkabout? Who do you want to meet in a walkabout? Like, that's who you name, and we get you those names.
With the candidate's approval though, right? So that's the thing, they're only gonna say, go ahead and call that reference. They're not gonna say.
Yeah, but usually
Well,
when
at
you go
that
into a
point, if
school, you're
they're
only
a
thinking
finalist,
people to
yeah,
talk
yeah,
to.
okay. The reference check is.
So
Well,
they're
how
really, so just a question, they're really, it'll hold the candidate pool down a little bit if they know that board members might visit their school. And that's because of what you said, Steve, you know, at that point, they just don't want anybody to know that they're looking for another job until they get that. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Typically, it's not
Okay,
public until the board has
Okay.
acted on the lone finalist. Now, as an alternative,
okay.
you could deliberate and reach conclusion before you act on a lone finalist, and then perhaps engage in a dinner with that lone finalist.
I think that you won't lose applicants who are aspiring superintendents, who are sitting assistant superintendents or deputies.
The ones that are-
What you might lose are the sitting effective superintendent.
I don't know, for me personally, I'm gonna trust what you guys think about it and say that I'm fine with the being confidential and not meeting them. That's my opinion. Chrissy?
I agree.
Kate, how did you feel real quick before you left?
What?
Are you fine with it being confidential and not going to the school or?
No, I really prefer, but whatever the majority
I
wants.
know,
to
but tell
do.
me your preference.
My preference is to go
Yeah,
visit their
okay.
site and also
Okay.
take one to dinner.
Okay, Brett, preference. Just polling people, we're not taking it back tonight.
I'm okay either way.
Okay, Mark. What do you prefer?
Yeah, I guess it's not how we did it last time because we did go visit and, you know, and I don't know about the dinner, but the visit I thought was kind of good. Kate and I met with a school board member from Lake Oswego. And I thought it was good because it was school board member to school board member and we talked about the candidate. And so part of me thinks, you know, I mean, maybe just is look, if you want to work in Forest Grove at some point, you're going to have to declare that rather than not declaring it until you get hired, I guess. That's my thought, but maybe that's old school thinking. You know, maybe that's just,
You know what that feels like?
Yeah.
You've gone through that process.
what?
You've done that. You've gone through that process before on the other end of it.
Yeah, I know. I just, but I will take the recommendation of the search firm as well. That's fine with me. It's, you know, so.
We do find like rule conversations between board director or board member and board member critically important. So as an alternative, we could say, if you're all willing, 5 board directors, each of you will be assigned a different board director to call on the finalists so that you have an opportunity to interact with the board director as part of your referencing.
It's almost always one of the reference checks. I mean, more than one, but you know, like Christy says, I want to talk to the board chair. Valerie wants to talk to the board chair and talks to the board chair for all 3 candidates, but we could go as deep as you want to go with the board members. And so get the same data point, but it's still.
Yeah, okay. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead with your recommendation.
Appreciate that. Thank you. We'll plan that way. Hector, can you hear us?
I sure can.
Right in the middle of an agenda item, and so I wanted to flesh it all the way out, but and we've made really great progress with dates and such, and we'll share that after we finish up.
Wonderful.
Would you introduce yourself to the board here? And
Absolutely. Hello, everyone. My name is Hector Garcia. I've been an educator for over 30 years. I started off as a high school teacher, moved up the ranks as an assistant principal, district administrator, and for the last 12 years, superintendent. 6 of those in my current district, where we're one of the highest performing schools in Illinois. So we're very proud of that. And I'm looking forward to really working with you and the community to try to find you the best candidate you can that we can get for you.
thank you, Hector. Maybe so the owl will follow each of the board members. Can you say hello, each of you?
Hi, Hector, I'm
Oh,
Christy
great.
Cockey, Vice Chair.
Hi,
Nice to
Hector,
meet you.
Valerie Ingram, Board Chair.
This empty chair is Kate Rudusky. She had to leave, so he's board member, and my name's Brad Vaccaro, and board member.
Nice
And
to
then
meet
also
you.
on virtually
Oh.
here.
Yeah, Mark Everett, board member. Hi.
Terrific. Thank you. Hi.
Yeah. And also with us today, we've got Kathy Bonson. She's the executive assistant to the board and the superintendent, and David Warner, who is communications. So,
Hello, Kathy and David.
yeah. All right. Well, let's see. Let's do a really easy one before we circle back to the focus groups, and that is residency expectations. Could somebody get this job and live in Sherwood, or I mean, what is your expectation around residency?
Yes, they can.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree.
Yes, for me too. You should have not used Sherwood probably.
I'm sorry.
I know. that's-
Cause like the look on its face.
Oh, God, no.
How about Cornelius? Okay, all right.
Hey,
Thanks.
Sherwood down.
They can live anywhere in Sherwood.
Midget. Oh, midget.
This is a public meeting.
I don't. Yeah, I really don't.
All right.
Okay, but yes, they could live
You go
anywhere as long as they can be here
here
together.
of residency. All right. I mean, who doesn't want to live in Forest Grove? So,
Right.
Yeah.
They would be missing out.
But-
For full service
all
town.
right.
You guys should advertise that, full service town.
That's right. Before we get to the last little bit, which mostly we've actually talked about, let's go back to the planning for the focus groups. I heard Val say that, is it Valerie or Val?
Either one,
Okay. That really would like all of the board to have a discussion about this before we break away to a small subgroup. So how would you like to do that? We're looking at, and you probably have it, Hector, to the addendum B, which is the focus group planning. There will be a 45-minute session with each board member. We'll get those scheduled ASAP. And then up to 15, 40-minute meetings where we'll, your structure. So, I mean, in terms of figuring out central office and those kinds of who the internal stakeholders are, who your patrons are. Is it fire chief and the Rotary and Central Cultural Director? I mean, you have some partners in your community that you may well want to have in a focus group. So let's talk.
So these recommendations are people that would be a part of the focus group.
Of the small, 5 to 7 at a
So
time.
there's 15 of them, they have 9 that are recommended, there could be a max of 7 people in each of those, but they prefer 5. And then we could add in 6 of those optional, or if we have a different idea,
Absolutely.
then we can put that in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Speak, Mark, what do you think?
So the retiring superintendent,
It is often a discussion, but I will tell you, because they do provide a lot of information about what the next person should expect.
Yeah.
But I often end up with a one-off conversation with them, regardless of whether they actually are on this list. So
Okay.
If
Got
you
it.
wanna
I
save
just-
the space, I'll take it, yeah.
Okay,
We should talk to him, but do
yeah,
we need to use a focus group to do it? Probably not.
okay, okay.
Excellent.
And then, yeah, I thought the executive assistant to the superintendent of the board they're under the optional, but I don't know if, that's Kathy. I don't know.
We do end up spending a lot of time with
Got it.
Kathy.
Okay,
So again, without taking up a focus
Got it.
group
okay.
one-on-one, I probably am gonna learn from Kathy what I
Okay.
need to know from Kathy.
Okay,
So
those are the two that stuck out to me on the list right away, but.
Do you think we should have more than one employee group?
yes.
Right.
And the reasons, some of these like,
In leadership and employment groups. So,
Well, it says employment groups, but that's what I
so
was.
last time we did this, we had the teachers union and the instructional system group.
Mhm.
What's it called?
Classified.
Wait, so both those unions were together?
No,
No,
separately.
usually
Should do
separate,
separately.
if there are two unions, we usually recommend, and if it's 7, we say 2 that they assign and 5 by lottery
yeah,
makes up a group, so,
Certified union in one group,
mhm,
go, say more grad, what was the other group, is that it?
classified.
classified.
Yeah.
That's,
So that's 2.
And then the administrators are another group. I don't know.
And is that more broadly,
So there's the
Principals, vice
administrators, which are the principals, vice principals, and then there's the cabinet, which is
Mhm.
the CFO and the sped director and the assistant superintendent.
How many on cabinet?
7.
7, so
that'd
that,
be one group.
that could be one group.
Yeah, and we did that last time.
I'm gonna call it cabinet,
We-
and then
Principals and vice principals in a group.
it's a pretty big group in this
They
district.
didn't do them all.
Right,
They
okay,
just-
so,
yeah.
So they would have a representative, secondary,
yeah,
so high school, middle school, and then elementary probably.
yeah. Great, okay, so one principal group and we'll design the who and the how, okay. And employee groups, we just said, parent groups, we're gonna definitely have, a Spanish language, parent group. Often, I would say in a district this size, one parent group English-speaking parent group might not be enough. I mean, it might be that we need kind of those with kids in elementary and those with kids in middle and high.
Okay, yeah, that's a good
I
idea.
did that last time.
Mhm.
I was gonna mention that there's a fairly organized group of about 100 parents, kids on IPs group, and
Oh,
that would be, they're very engaged, and I think that could be.
as their own,
Well,
so that'd be.
But that, if,
I don't know,
Yeah.
that's a maybe.
yeah, okay, I'm just
I'm
saying,
yeah, yeah.
or focus on maybe parents with kids with special needs as a group itself. Because that is a focus of our district, so maybe not that particular group, but there is a gal that's leading that group that could be a good piece. And then my only other question, I guess, about employees was, is it possible to highlight either and or a group of veteran teachers that have been through multiple superintendents, have been in the district for a long time versus 0 to 3 newer teachers? I mean, those impressions of like what it feels like to be in the district under current leadership as a new teacher versus people who've been here a long time and seen all kinds of things. I would be really interested to see.
That's interesting.
I don't know.
Yeah, so when we do the law, there tend to be more interest than slots, right, from staff. So we could have that the form that goes out for them to apply, if you will, it's a Google form, they fill it out, we could ask, how many years have you been working for Foursquare School District? And then we do a random selection, but we'll say we're gonna first put them in, what?
Right.
2 or 3 columns and then randomly select.
Well, I'm just throwing that out to the group. Those were
Or how
my,
many years have you been in education? Because you can be a veteran teacher that went through a superintendent search in another district.
Mhm.
And so you understand kind of how that works.
sure.
Mhm. Okay, I would say we want community leaders, but I was also going to say, we're really working hard to form partnerships with both cities. So I would say a group that's both city managers and both mayors would probably be one group, I think. Mhm.
That's what I was thinking too, and then like for the partners, we want Alante,
Yes,
Uh,
Petro.
Centro.
And I wonder, so given that we can have multiple groups on the day Hector's in town, we may want one kind of community group that is partners that we're hearing from, but also those are gonna be really active groups, I hope, on the day that Hector's here. So I have above the line under recommended Spanish parent and community groups. I mean, that's gonna happen. When here, so that's not gonna be one of the 15.
Oh, so that won't be.
That won't be because
That's taking the
that's
full
taking
day.
a full day.
Okay.
Okay.
Central office staff, I mean, we're a pretty small building, so I feel like they work really closely.
Okay,
I think,
in addition to cabinet. So how many would that be?
I mean, each department could send a representative. if
Okay.
they want to,
Well, how many departments?
Business office,
And that'd be-
HR,
Yeah.
technology,
Student service.
student services, curriculum and
So
instruction.
central office
I
staff,
think that would be,
yeah.
because we are a very small district office, so
Yeah.
having their input, I think, would be good.
Great, great. Do you have a foundation, an education foundation, and would they be a separate group or would they be, they're already representing?
We could ask them to represent, except for that's the president.
As the educational foundation?
Oh, not the ed foundation, I've been the boosters.
Yeah. No,
And we
there's
do have the education foundation of Forest Grove.
We can talk about whether that,
But do we think
that
that
they
they
would
would
be,
be
or they
on
just
that
be
we would-
invited?
I don't know who they are.
I think they would be good.
Yeah, what do you think, Chrissy, about it, like, after this?
Well, we hope to just have one of them represented on.
On another committee,
Yeah.
yeah.
Steve.
Well, but I think this is the group that had me come and meet with them to join, and it's a couple. Yeah, I mean, I'll defer to you guys on that, I don't
I don't
know.
know.
They do teacher grants
You're the one
for,
that
they
said
do
it,
some
yeah.
fundraising and they do teacher grants for,
I don't know who they are.
all
Yeah,
the staff. And then they also, actually, one of their president went on was one of the, members that went when we hired the high school principal. So they're a small group and they don't, but they do a lot of fundraising and they do offer teacher grants. They've done,
So we want to make room for them in a group.
Yes.
If they're not.
at least one representative, yes. I think that would be, because we wanted to keep doing our teacher grants.
Okay,
So how many teacher groups do we have?
right this minute, we have, two, a licensed and a certified. Now, if that's not in, sorry, I'm just, yeah, licensed and a classified.
So we probably need.
We
another
could do
teacher.
another-
We need an
And instructionalists, like two more.
So four,
But we
Two
don't,
for teachers, two for classified, don't you think?
So you,
well, at least two for teachers, for sure. Cause where were we at? Like, how many did we have so far? What account?
yeah.
Would there be one that would just be for like counselors and mental health
they would
support?
be part of the teachers.
Just one,
They're licensed, right?
Yeah, but, okay, I'm trying
I
to
think that-
figure out how.
Well, like
it's
maybe the
structured.
TOSA could be, when you have the central office staff, maybe one of the TOSAs would be with that, with the business.
Yeah,
and-
like Christina.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm, that would be great. So then. I think we
You
should,
sometimes get a different feedback from the union group that you would get from a teacher's group.
Right,
They're just not connected all the time.
yeah, what the
So
union might
if
feel
a
is important.
secondary group, and then maybe an elementary group of
Yeah.
teachers would be probably good,
I think that would be really helpful.
because the union has their
They have their agenda.
agenda.
they do, and in generally, there's a couple of ways we've done it. We've actually had, where classified and licensed leadership from the two unions are one group. Because their union leadership for whatever the union is, or we can have, like I said, the certified where the union where unions can be, tricky is they want to have not just lottery selection. So it could be that there's two, there's an elementary and a middle school and a secondary teacher group. In both groups of 7, 2 get to be assigned by the association and the rest are by lottery. So it's 10 by lottery, 4 by assignment of the teachers.
That'd be fine.
Yeah,
All right.
that would work.
So here's what I think. I think we've got good direction. We've got, David and Kathy, we could hammer in on just the logistics of the how, as long as we're sure that once we get to 15, and we'll bring that back to you all. In fact, when's your next, so as soon as we can. I think we have good direction. We know who not to.
What about students?
Oh,
Yeah, I had
students is
students
good.
written down.
Yes, they're already on here, students.
Students, yes.
They give great feedback, middle school and high school.
Yes,
So what we have to work with is who can get some, usually it's some leadership team, but we tend to like to say, can we get some, a freshman, a sophomore, a junior, senior? They don't fill out a form and apply because they just don't get excited about it, but if we can,
but we have. a
work with
student
leadership
rep
to
too,
hand
to the
select.
board, So.
yeah, he
He
can
can help,
definitely be, and help with
Mhm.
identifying
Yeah.
7 or 8 students.
And we want them to be like of different backgrounds and
And involvement in the school.
Yeah.
We've been involved in you could reach out to the Latinos in Action, and that's them for a person,
And
the
so we
ASB
come
for a
out-
person. I don't want them all from ASB, like.
No, we
that's
want
just, like,
some
one
from
little
Cal, we
person.
want
Yeah.
some from.
An athlete,
Exactly.
But I have an athletic leadership, ask him for recommendations for one of those, and then just kind of.
we'll make a list of it,
Yeah.
and then ask the adults in the system who know who those kids are to make some recommendations, to reach out by
And
text.
as far as the people from last year in the engagement groups, the people who are part of marginalized populations that said we want to be, where do you make sure within the lottery system that we are represented in that way, or maybe even hopefully overrepresented this time to be able to show the
For sure.
equities?
Yeah. Typically, we work with district staff to make sure that there's a personalized sort of ask or invitation to be part of the lottery process. Yeah. So that they
Maybe we
know,
send that
like
out
if
to
they've got a
parents.
listserv group or a email group, it's the same communication, but we strongly encourage you to submit.
And then if
For this
those names
lottery.
come back and we look at those and say, well, we still need some representation, we go back out before finalizing those groups. Or,
We sure can try, I
okay,
mean,
I just wanna.
yeah, sometimes it's.
It's hard to get people to sometimes commit.
Right, right, except for that personalized invitation really does tend to help.
Okay.
And if we've encouraged them, but then they don't fill out the application. I have had times when I haven't had enough students, and that's when somebody in the central office or an assistant principal in a building or in the somebody in the counseling office really calls kids in and says, you'd be such a great, and
Yeah, personally.
Yeah.
And
you
with,
could- you
and
could
with
like-
parents too.
And well, at our migrant group, they do the phone calls for their team pack and everything, so we can kind of ask them to help us too.
and that's gonna be,
Critically important.
critically
for
important for
Hector.
Hector,
Yeah.
really having a
The personal
robust.
phone call will make a
Yeah.
difference. And
Absolutely.
they do that all the time now when they have meetings and stuff.
Okay,
So I
great.
think the recruiters are
We
more
gotta
than willing to help.
really be getting out of the gate and moving on, really filling out that January 20th, through really, good communication. Good. Just checking the time here. I think we're doing fine, and want to get you out of here on time. Anything we've missed? We are gonna, that's my last agenda item. Anything else we need to know? Anything else you need to know? Looking at the very bottom of the agenda, salary range for the new superintendent, again, that's something we have to talk about and take action on later, just future agenda items. The format of the final interviews, that was really the discussion about community and in-person finals. And we'll hammer it completely out when we know how many we're talking about. And finalist calendar, I'll get to you. And
I put most of them in, so hopefully I got them right.
good, thank you.
So Robin, are we gonna do the, I think the one-to-one board interviews, are we gonna wait until, I mean, maybe you were gonna mention that, but after the break or what?
Well, we'd love to start as soon as somebody's available. I heard you're leaving town. You're headed away for a while?
Well, in January for just not very far, but yeah, for a week.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Are we doing it virtually? Or
Yes.
on the phone or in
Yes,
person?
they're virtual.
Oh, okay, perfect.
Zoom or
Okay.
on the phone. Yeah, we won't, we'll just do those by
Where are you
phone. by
going,
Zoom.
Mark?
And we certainly, calendar some of those today for folks who know their schedule, and I mean, you all know your schedules. For anybody who wants to get those on our schedules, we're here with calendars and you can do that.
Before that, Robin, can I clarify? So from here going forward, if we have any questions, do we write to you or just to Val and let Val communicate with you? I mean, what's the best communication for us?
I think what you said, and I'm fine with this, is that if you had a question, you could write to them.
Okay,
And then she will answer your question and VCC us, so we all know what question was asked and what the response was. But then I don't have to be like, just like the middle person,
right, okay.
translating or re-saying your question and all that, but then we can still see the, is that fine with everybody?
Sounds good to me.
Okay,
Yeah.
Would you remind me when your next board meeting is? Is it into January?
It's January
January 8th.
All right, my goal will be to meet with whomever raises their hand and says, let's talk about these focus groups, so that we have a list of the actual focus groups and a bit of a plan that you get to see at that board meeting.
Did anybody want to be on that? Christy did, Mark or Brad, what did you guys feel about it? I'm fine either way.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I think we all contributed today, so I think all the voices have been heard, and so if two people want to refine it, that'd be fine based on what was said today.
Okay. And Hector, we want to be sure we schedule that when Hector's available, because we really want to help start to outline that, in addition to the 15 groups, really outline that day. And actually, Hector, what we learned today when you weren't here is that January 27th is right in the middle of a 4-day weekend for all of the middle school and high school because of end of semester. So we really do need to do that January 20th, or a lot of people
Perfect.
won't be available. Okay, all right.
Perfect.
They'll be skiing at Mount Hood, assuming there's enough snow.
Yeah.
There you go.
All right.
20th is
Okay,
great.
So we can do some calendaring. It doesn't need to be part of the actual meeting. We can adjourn it and adjourn. We've gotten through our items. Anything else for the good of the order?
Okay, adjourned.
Okay.
Do we need to leave Hector on, or is he good to go?
Yeah, we can leave can we leave Hector on?
Yeah.
No, we'll have to invite him to the second end of Zoom and not. How do we do that?
Turn the power
Where's
off.
Enrique?
He's next door.
No, if we end the Zoom, then we end Hector and Mark.
Okay.
So stop record. Does it keep recording even if you're done? Well, I mean, no,
What
I
is our
if anybody
purpose?
joins us.
If we end the
Webinar.
webinar, but do we have to continue to have it in public? Is there
No.
still?
We're just doing it.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
YouTube. We want to not record it anymore. How do we do that?
Just a second.
No,